Hello. So today I'm going to be doing talk about one from 2003, and it's one that's it's kind of similar to a previous analog one that I've done in the sense that I have these dancers over a horrific background or a deadly background. This one's called Deadly Dancing, and this one's digital, and I know because I remember not cutting around the skirt very much. I remember using the Magic Wand tool. So, on a much earlier version of Photoshop, actually, because this one's from 2003. So, the version I'm using Photoshop that I've been using I've been using it actually for 19 years now. Was that when Photoshop 6 came out? I can't remember. Maybe it was that Photoshop 6. I can't remember now, actually. I'll have to look that up. But this is very basic, and the piece it looks a bit like is this, or not so much looks a bit like, but is in a similar vein to is this one here, which I've done a previous video of, called Dancing with Death. So you have these dancers, and you have an Arctic scene with soldiers and a nuclear submarine and a nuclear power plant. So the vision you're using here is fairly obvious. You play with these, you dance with these things, and it's you could easily get yourself killed. And it's a similar thing. That's why it's a similar one to Deadly Dancing, in the fact that, but it's not quite so explicit about nuclear. It's about it's Deadly Dancing with the idea of war. Now, the interesting thing about this being digital is the fact that I never actually got rid of this, edited out this little artifact on the image. I never did that. I don't know why I didn't. Maybe I just didn't feel like it was my place to do that, or I wanted to do it quickly, or it's a matter of it preserves the fact that it's an older picture. So, and also this was it was a deliberate thing. This is around the time where I just really started to stop using, or before that, roughly around that time, I started to stop mixing colour and black and white sources, unless the two sources I'm using were really good, or it's a case of to make a point. And this one was actually to make a point. So you have this, if you have like modern society doing the deadly dancing, playing with things like warfare, trying to be on top, and not being careful. And you have here in the black and white the consequences. Now, I'm not saying some things shouldn't before. Of course they should, but in this case, it is a deadly game. Things could go horrifically wrong. It could create untold suffering. So, and this has been the dilemma of society since really the start time when I heard it described how before it used to be wars were still dangerous, so there were still not good things. But it wasn't until like the First World War where it started to become like warfare. It was the first time warfare was getting so dangerous that it threatened the existence of the societies that fought them. So, because with some of the weapons that were coming out and about and being developed during that war, and if it had gone on further, what could have been developed since then? I mean, I always wonder how things would have gone if one of the sides had developed nuclear weapons during the First World War. Whether they would have been used at all. They probably would have, because even during the Second World War, when they did use two nuclear weapons against and it was a way of trying to put an actual stop to the war, where it was obvious it's fairly likely it would put a stop to the war, but they didn't know what they were playing with. They didn't know what their what this could unleash, and but they had a little bit of a better idea than what the people fighting the First World War would have had, because nobody knew what they were doing a lot of the time, and they were just throwing weapons at things to try and break a stalemate. And because it's the first time you had powers of varying varying to quite pretty much within some varying degrees equal to each other with the kind of weapons they have. So before, machine guns weren't really used against so much against other people with machine guns. They were mostly used against tribal people or people lesser people that had still pretty good guns, but didn't have as good as ones as you did. And naval races, naval equipment, for instance, was becoming obsolete pretty much as soon as it was made, because there were some such fast developments. So, and this is how it is now to an extent. There are things have maybe stabilised a little, but there are still some great developments. So great, I don't mean as good. I mean as monumental developments, but not to the extent as what you had then. So you have armies that are really on that fight each other now. Or that could fight each other. The great powers are of a still of a reason of a relatively similar parity. So any European nation that went against each other, with the extent of anyone going against maybe the UK and France because they have nuclear weapons, they would be mostly equal. And they wouldn't go against each other anyway, because there's too many. There are better alliances now than what there were during the First World War, but things could still go very badly very quickly, and this is what this is all about, and it's also what this is all about. They do, they're very similar pieces. They're almost like two similar arguments, or two slightly different ways of making the same argument. So, and there is, like I said, there is a video talking about this one where I'll probably explain it a bit more eloquently, because there isn't much to say about this. To talk about this, you see it, and it's that's it. It's one of the ones that was designed to hit you over the head, and it's one that I think is quite striking, especially with the people dancing and this this woman here crying over somebody who's fallen. I'm reasonably confident. I can't remember because I don't remember exactly, but this could likely have been a Second World War era photo of the invasion of the Soviet Union by the Nazis. So the way they're dressed, it seems it's certainly very Eastern European of the time, most likely Soviet Union, somewhere in the Soviet Union, whether it's Russia proper or Ukraine or anywhere else. So, let me know what you think of this, whether you like it, and like, share, and subscribe. My description has my link tree in it, which has my merch links on my socials. Also, check out my Patreon, see if that suits you. It's all any other tiers on that. And I shall speak to you soon. Thank you.